Hello and welcome to this episode of the Skift Meetings podcast, the podcast for curious professionals embracing the future of business events. My name is Miguel Neves and I'm the editor-in-chief of Skift Meetings. And this episode is all about the circular economy and how destinations benefit from circularity. Joining me are two experts in their own right. From the destination side, we have Brecht Putman, Senior Association Manager North America at VISITFLANDERS, the convention bureau for Flanders, the northern Dutch-speaking part of Belgium, and one of the leading experts on the circular economy, Karl Vrancken, Research Manager Circular Economy at VITO. And VITO stands for Vision on Technology for a Better World, an independent Flemish research organization in the area of clean tech and sustainable development. In our conversation, we covered things like what is the circular economy, why Flanders, as a destination looking to attract business events, is focused on the circular economy. We talk about some of the key events taking place in Flanders on and around the circular economy that also set great examples for other events. We talk about how these kinds of events create a valuable legacy at a destination, and just where can you start learning about circularity and circular economy processes. I hope you enjoy listening to this conversation, and I invite you to check out the other episodes of the podcast. You can find them on our website or by subscribing through your favorite podcast service. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Skift Meetings podcast. Delighted that you can join us today. Today, we have a special episode that is dedicated to our current sponsors for the month of April 2023, Visit Flanders, and it's all about the circular economy. I hope you enjoy our conversation. I'm sure I am going to enjoy it. With me today, I have Brecht Putman, Senior Association Manager North America at Visit Flanders, and Karl Vrancken, Research Manager Circular Economy at VITO. Thank you both for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. So, Brecht, we've known each other for a while, I think something like 10 years or more, I think mainly through MPI and other industry connections. But would love to kind of get a little introduction from you about your story. How did you connect with this events industry? And how did you get to be you, really?
Yeah. So I started working for the Visit Flanders Convention Bureau about 15 years ago in Brussels, where our headquarters is located. I'm personally from Belgium originally. And after 3 years, we decided to expand our operations into the US market, which is a very important market when it comes to meetings and tourism to Flanders. So I started working in the US office in New York about 12 years ago. And my job is to attract international conferences to Flanders.
Let's get this out of the way. Flanders. Could you just make sure everybody understands where Flanders is and what it is, really?
Yeah. So Flanders is the northern Dutch-speaking region of Belgium. It's quite a small region. It's about the size of Connecticut for those who are listening in the United States. In about 2 hours, you go from east to west and north to south. The main cities are Brussels, Antwerp, Bruges, Ghent, Leuven. I think that's what most people can relate to. Flanders is located in the heart of Europe and honestly, super close to other European capitals. In about 2 hours, you get to London by high-speed train. Less than 1 hour and a half, you get to Paris, Amsterdam, Cologne. So truly I would say a thriving region in the heart of Europe, known for cultural heritage, beer, chocolate, and many other things.
Sounds good. Just for people that don't have this kind of notion, I think going between Belgium and Netherlands is very easy, right? There are no borders. There's signs and things like that, but you could easily go from one to the other without even noticing it. And I think a lot of people do that kind of multiple times a day, right?
Correct. And this is really the European project that I'm personally very proponent of, but people can travel freely within the member states of the European Union. So it's really an advantage for post trips, combining destinations. It's a good thing.
Yeah. So having an event in Flanders, you could easily pop over to the Netherlands, even Germany, France, many other destinations can be kind of part of that. So always a
very true destination. But as a tourism destination, we recommend staying.
Of course. So Karl, over to you. Would love to understand a little bit of how you fit in all of this and your connection to Flanders as well.
Yeah, so my name is Karl Vrancken. I'm a research manager for circular economy with VITO. VITO is the Flemish Institute for Technological Research. So we're a government-owned research institute, which works on sustainability and technologies for sustainability. I've been working here for more than 25 years, always been working in sectors of waste management, reuse, recycling, the type of topics. And I'm also an associate professor at the University of Antwerp, where I teach circular economy.
Thank you for being with us. You are the subject matter expert here for sure. How did you get into the circular economy? Could you tell us a little bit where did this come about?
Yeah, I started my career in waste management and waste management technology. And so whereas that in that time, we mainly looked at the end of pipe solutions, we sort of naturally moved into looking more forward into the material cycle, thinking about recycling first, collection, recycling, the whole storyline there.
Could you just explain end of pipe solutions? What does that mean? Like the end of life?
Yeah, end of life. But yeah, when you talk about industrial processes, you have emissions and things just flow out of the pipe, and then you think about how are we going to clean this water? That sort of issues. But so yeah, we more and more have taken attention for what's happening at the front of the value chain, thinking about how can we prolong the lifetime of products, how can we make sure that products are used by multiple persons so that they are more effectively used. Once we bring up the value of something, how can we make sure that this value is used for a longer time? So, and that brings us to circular economy, where we think about leasing of products, the sharing of products, the reuse of products, all that type of activities.
Okay, I was going to ask you exactly to define circular economy. I'm pretty familiar. I think a lot of event professionals are familiar with sustainability, but circular economy, is it just being ultra sustainable? What does it really mean?
Well, I think, circular economy basically is a strategy to reach sustainability. Circular economy is not a goal in itself. It's a different way of looking at materials. It's a sustainable way of managing materials. So it means that you try to maintain the value of a product for as long as possible. You've put a lot of effort in making a product out of a material. So why would you break it down to the material again? That's basically the idea. So we try to make sure that products are reused, that they are repaired, that they are refurbished. And if that's not possible, then you think about how to manage them in a recycling chain. And ultimately, of course, you should also think about how to manage waste fractions and make sure that you extract all the value that's left in there.
Yeah, fascinating. And I think a lot of event professionals, see recycling as a really good thing, really valuable thing. And of course it is, but there's lots of things that should, from what I'm hearing, come before it, right? That you should consider before recycling almost as a last alternative.
Yes, because circular economy leads to new business insights, to new types of business models where you don't just sell a product into a market and you don't know your customer, but you go into models where you remain the owner maybe of your product, or you make sure that you know where the product goes and you manage it while it is in use. We also look more at the use of a product rather than the consumption, where it ends up as being outdated, worn out, or at the end of its lifetime. So it's a totally different approach of interacting with your customer and with the market.
Fascinating. And I'm sure we'll get into it more. But so tell me a little bit about, your connection to events and meetings and in your mind, the role that meeting professionals can actually play in the circular economy.
Because it's a different way of looking at products and of looking at how your business works. Typically in circular economy, you need a lot of contacts with your customers, but also with your suppliers, and even the next step in your value chain. So typically, if you talk to a company, they know who they buy from and maybe who they sell to or where they sell something. But in circular economy, you really need to know your value chain. And that means that circular economy typically is something where a lot of contact is necessary. So you need to talk to people, you need to sit together to evaluate, to look at your value chain, to analyze the business model that you supply to the market. And so there's a lot of knowledge involved to know how that market functions. On the other hand, it also generates a lot of needs for technology. How do you track your material? Where does the material go? Where does it come from? So there's a lot of knowledge there involved. And we need to bring together a lot of different disciplines in circular economy, because also if you think that your business model changes, you probably need a different way of ensuring the products that you're putting on the market. You need a different way of financing your business model. So we typically need to speak to a lot of people with different backgrounds. And so conferences are a very nice place to bring those people together.
Interesting. So you see conferences as a really good place to create those impacts, or to start those relationships and to make those connections. I guess from a strictly kind of networking perspective, but also from a knowledge perspective, right? Knowing about new different ways of doing things, tools, etc.
Yeah, indeed, because we need to exchange our visions on where we want to go to. Yeah, if we want to move to a sustainable consumption and production system, it's good to talk about it. Where does it have to lead to? How do we see this? What are the different options, but also what are the opportunities, what are the threats if we think about such a different system? So that needs a lot of exchange of ideas.
Yeah, I think for every meeting professional, it's always nice to hear those words, because there's a lot of questions around the value of meetings. But when you hear that academics and practitioners like yourself, really see value in coming together, I think that's really inspiring.
So as a convention bureau, we kind of want to step away from the temporary events with just measuring the impact that's economic and just the temporary nature of a conference in a destination. The reason why we focus so much on the sector called circularity or circular economy is because we believe we can create a longer lasting impact. When we bring a temporary, so to speak, event to the destination, it will be temporary in terms of, yes, 3 days conference, but we also believe we can create a longer term impact by connecting international experts coming to the conference with our local experts, such as we have here on the panel today. We believe we can create projects and a really longer term impact. So as a government destination marketing organization, we are actually striving to step away from just the temporary nature of events.
That's really interesting. Thank you for jumping in. I think that's a really interesting approach and kind of fascinating. But tell me a little bit more about why Flanders is so involved in this. Circular economy, fascinating. Obviously, sustainability, etc., always a great topic. And as an industry, I think it's very important for us to figure out how to be more sustainable, and circular economy seems to be a great way to think about it. But why is Flanders so involved in this and creating these different opportunities and kind of promoting this aspect?
Yeah. So first of all, circularity, no sector as this one has so much impact on our future like the circular economy. We have to think about sustainable ways to live our life and in order to preserve the planet. This all sounds a little bit fluffy, but we have to admit that in Flanders, the northern region of Belgium, we are a global forerunner when it comes to research and development within the sector. And we want to attract international conferences that relate to that, exactly because of the impact and legacy reasons that are connected to that. We are a rich source of inspiration and insights to other international conferences related to this field. But with this, though, I have to circle back or dial back a little bit. So circularity is just one of 11 key sectors that we focus on. And this has everything to do with our strategy. As a destination marketing organization, we chose to no longer measure our success solely economically, but also socially. We want to attract only not more conferences, but better conferences. We want to attract conferences that relate to our destination. We want to attract conferences that share the DNA of our destination. So we will measure our success not only in economic terms, but also in terms of what meaningful exchange was able to take place. So circular economy is one of 10 domains. Some others, just for explanation, are healthcare. When you look at Leuven, Ghent, Antwerp University, we see in those universities, we are, again, global frontrunners when it comes to research within certain oncology research, nanotechnology, I'm not going to get into it too much, but just to explain, we really radically choose to only focus on association conferences that relate to our destination. This was a choice we made as a destination marketing organization.
Makes total sense. But I assume that you're happy to talk to people organizing events in many different fields, right? Can you help destinations, or sorry, can you help event organizers that want to embrace circularity in the circular economy, either as part of the content or as how they do their events?
100%. So I must also say, Miguel, everybody is welcome to Flanders. I'm just saying, we as the experts in the convention bureau, we can best help those associations that are linked to our key industries. Circularity, yes, we are happy to help any organization that's related to this field, again, by putting together, if necessary, depending on how the association is set up, by finding a local organizing committee, connecting them with local universities or experts or other local associations related to this field. And then secondly, of course, our other tasks is, the research for venues, accessibility, all those things.
Excellent. So I want to come back to you, Karl, again. I know that you've been involved in quite a few, quite high-profile events, but I wanted you to help us connect the dots between the research side of what you do and then the attracting events to Flanders. How do those dots connect, and what role have you played?
Well, I think it's important when you set up conferences that you have a generic storyline, a long-lasting storyline. I also want to come back a little bit to this temporary items. So typically the conferences we do, they have a repeating nature, and they have as a basis to build a community. One of the examples there is the Global Sustainable Technology and Innovation Community, GSTIC, which has been organizing recurring conferences over the past years and attracting high-level speakers such as Antonio Gutierrez, who recently came to the conference. And another example there is the Love Tomorrow conference, which is linked, and that's very interesting, I think, to the very known festival Tomorrowland. So there's a yearly festival typically of dance music, and it has a very big infrastructure, which is there for 2 weekends, and it attracts people really from around the globe. It's sold out always very quickly, this festival. And so in the week between the 2 festival weekends, we use the infrastructure to set up a sustainability festival to also talk to those people that come to the festival, but attract additional other participants. And so it's this idea, build a storyline around your conference, either through building this community or to setting it up linked with another important event where you can show that you have a backbone, that you have a background, that you have a story to tell. I think that's a very important item here, a very important issue. And then in the organization, you try to make sure that you network, that you build a network with other organizations. We're very strong at that. Also here in Flanders, we're very much linked to the European level. Certainly when it comes to circular economy, we have a very close connection to the European Environment Agency, which is the agency that brings together all information about the environment, but also drives the environment policy, the materials policy in Europe. So by having this very tight connection as an organization, we also can make sure that we attract interested people, and that if conferences come to our place, that we can very easily connect them to the European level.
Fascinating. So I really like the example you gave of Love Tomorrow, right? The conference or the event that happens in between Tomorrowland, right? There's 2
indeed.
weekends with music festivals with thousands of festival goers, but the same site is then used during the week for is it one conference? Is it multiple conferences? Is it sort of its own circularity festival? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's it started as a 1-day event, but indeed it's growing to multiple days and multiple stages, as typically festivals do. Yep. So yeah, indeed, for the new edition, we'll be using several stages and doing a more-day event there. And
so, where do you want to go with these events? Because you're attracting some big names, Antonio Guterres. You also have Yuval Noah Harari coming to Love Tomorrow. I mean, these are pretty big names. This is a big event in its own right now, or both of these are. Where do you see this going? Are these going to be the leading events? I'm assuming they are the leading events in terms of circular economy, but where do you imagine this going in the future?
Well, I think we want to talk to a very wide audience, to also be sort of a influencer or influencer type events, not on social media, but through really live events where we bring future thinkers together with a wide audience. I think that's important, but we also link it then to bringing the content and to bringing also scientifically based material to this broad audience. I think that's one of the specificities that we do in those conferences is to couple, let's say, a worldwide dialogue with scientific information and with debate. And I think we need to open the debate to all the different generations, to talk to a lot of people. And by linking, for example, like to this Tomorrowland event, we're able to extend our reach out also to young people much more than we do typically with other conferences.
Yeah, fascinating. So Brecht, I wanted to come back to you and kind of the strategy of Visit Flanders. And maybe you could kind of paint a picture for us. I'm thinking on one side, you have events that are sustainable, that are talking about circularity, that are really in that remit. And I'm sure you can help them in many different ways as Visit Flanders. But on the other side of the spectrum, you might have events that are not really thinking about circularity, but maybe want to, I guess, kind of bring some circularity or input some circularity into the event by coming to Flanders. How do you work with those two spectrums? How do you work with them, and how do you make the best of I guess, those both worlds, those kind of extreme worlds?
Right. So I basically want to step back to our vision and our strategy. We cannot deny that the current tourism models that we know, that we see, it's under pressure. Climate change is something that's happening all around us. It's happening in real life. There's a digitization, there's a revolution of AI, there is health crises, there's economic crises, and there's this thing called over-tourism that many destinations are starting to struggle with. So as a government organization, we found it very important to find a model where we can really find a balance between residents of Flanders, people who live in Flanders, versus visitors to Flanders, versus entrepreneurs that are active in Flanders. Our ideal is to find a perfect balance between those. We believe in the positive power of tourism. We want people to come over and add value to our destination with social return. But in return, we also want to add value to the organizations that come here or to the visitors that come here. So, and this is what translates into our vision of only attracting associations that have a link with Flanders. Now, I already said that circularity is a domain, one of 11 that we focus on. Others are culture, arts, heritage, smart energy, industry 4.0, industry 5.0, innovative technologies, cycling. So those are the ones that we focus on. When it comes to incorporating sustainability into events, of course, we believe in that. Many destination marketing organizations, colleagues of mine, also believe in that. And I highly recommend incorporating the EIC standards. This is what we try to do with venues, with accommodations in our destination. We want to really set a global standard for sustainability, but that is separate from trying to attract conferences that relate to our key industries.
I wanted to also touch on a couple of other things that I know you've done. You've created a book, an ebook on circular economy. Could you tell us a little bit about that? How did that come about, and who is that for?
Yes. So we have actually created ebooks in each of our key domains. And we want to really show our knowledge and expertise in our region. We just don't want to proclaim it and claim it as ours, but no, we have these ebooks to really show on paper why we have it and why it is there. And we really, in those ebooks, we have interviews with experts such as Karl here, but also other people, organizations, associations that are active in the field of circular economy in Flanders. I'm also thinking about universities. We have interviews with leading experts. And of course, we give some inspiration on venues, accommodation, cities. So truly those ebooks are a tool for associations that are active in that domain to really find inspiration. We have ebooks in circular economy field. We have ebooks in arts and heritage. We have them in sustainability. We have them in innovative industries. We have them in cycling. We have them in healthcare. It is endless. If people are interested, please go to our website, meetinflanders.com. They are free for download, and honestly, they are free. They are not a promotional tool, but they are truly in-depth knowledge gathering for experts that are active in each of these fields.
Absolutely. And we appreciate that. And we'll put the link to that in the show notes, of course. Also wanted to touch on legacy makers. This is also something that you're working with at Visit Flanders. Could you explain what that is and how that works?
Sure. Well, legacy, it's the word speaks for itself, I think, but it really relates again to our strategy. We want to create a long-lasting impact in the destination. So legacy is truly a part of that. Maybe I can best explain with an example. For instance, there was an international cycling conference coming to Ghent next year in June. So for a legacy project, we sat together with local stakeholders, being the police, local schools, the tourism board. And together with us, we looked at actions we can do in preparation for the conference. What can we do to create more safety on the roads in Ghent? So this is really a very concrete project that we can really see the impact for locals and tourists. When they cycle in Ghent, they can feel safe and at ease at the same time. So this positive impact, this legacy, thanks to this conference, will be felt by locals, but also tourists alike. So this is just one example from, hopefully tens, dozens of legacy projects we'll be working on in the future.
I love that. I think that's a really, really great example. I wanted to come back to Karl. And in terms of, we talked a little bit about some of the events that you work with. What kind of criteria? I mean, I imagine you get requests or you get connections and partnerships and all sorts of things all the time around circular economy. How do you deal with that? How do you have a sort of certain criteria that you want people to have already, or a certain mindset or a certain process? How do you deal with requests for people that want to jump into the circular economy? They want to make their events more sustainable through circular economy processes. Tell me a little bit about how you think about that.
I think that one of the important criteria is that conferences need to be forward-looking. They need to think about true solutions and about implementation, about results that really can be shown, that really are there in practice. The idea of circular economy is already going around for, let's say, about 10 years. And so we think that we are now past the stage where we need to discuss what it means. We need to make sure that it happens. And those are things that are very important. So if you develop a conference around this theme, we need to make sure that we involve the industry, that we make sure that we can show people that are really bringing new products or new services to the market. And I also feel that there's a need to discuss the challenges that are ahead of us in this field. And one of the important challenges here is digitalization. How do we make sure that we apply all the novel IT technologies into this domain? I've talked about material tracking, which will be of major importance, but also making sure that consumers get the right information about their product, that there's a possibility to interact, for instance, with financiers, with insurance makers. Also, their digital tools can be of a very big importance. And typically, if you think about a circular business model, you will need an app or a digital application. Think about leasing a car or using a shared car service. It's not so much the quality of the car which matters, it's the quality of the app, which is of main importance. So digitalization and circularity, a very important field where we still need to develop a lot of things. Another element there that can be mentioned is, for instance, I'll do that again. Another element that can be mentioned there is, for instance, the impact of pollutants. Yeah, when you start recycling material, when you start reusing material, we need to be careful about the presence of, for instance, persistent chemicals. This is a topic that's really coming to the forefront. How will we deal with that within circular economy? So I think in those conferences, it's on one hand to show what's already happening, implementation. On the other hand, think about those challenges that lie ahead of us, where digitalization and health effects, chemical pollution are two of the important things that I can see ahead of me there.
Thank you for sharing that, Karl. I think that's really fascinating. Back to you, Brecht. I know that you're quite selective about the events that you travel to as an organization, and I think that's part of your strategy, right? Could you take a little bit through that? Because I think that's quite unique. You're not just talking the talk; you're actually walking the walk. Could you explain that for us?
Yeah. So, I mean, as it is, many of the industry organizations that we know still kind of cling to the old business model of more and more heads in beds, which is fine, which is the economic driver, obviously. But as I explained already, we want to kind of step away from that a little bit. We are a purely knowledge and research-driven organization. So exhibiting, for instance, at big trade shows is no longer truly the tool that's going to help us reach our goals. What helps us is truly, the research that we do, and that's how we basically attain our success. I hope that many organizations in the future will also rethink their strategies. I think the future of tourism is important. To use an MPI line, I think it says, when the world meets, magic happens, or something like that. And I truly believe in that. But I hope we become all a little bit more selective and make it make sense and have the legacy aspect truly part of every event. Try to make an impact anywhere you go in a positive way.
Great. Thank you for that. So, Brecht, I want to kind of wrap up, but ask you for your advice. Obviously, it would probably involve connecting with Visit Flanders, but what is your advice to meeting professionals that are looking to explore circular economy, explore circularity, understand better how they can impact their businesses and impact their meetings? What's your advice to them, or where should they start?
Well, you already mentioned it, so people are welcome to contact me directly or one of my colleagues in head office. If you have a conference that relates to circularity, we are here to help. So I'm based in the United States, but I have, of course, colleagues around the world. And in head office, we have dedicated experts to each of the fields we are active in. So if you have a conference within circularity, I can connect you with my colleague in head office that can do all the linking, all the connecting to make sure that the conference becomes a success. And when an association is interested, we can also help with a legacy track. We believe that associations can play a more crucial role in society, and their conference or event can be a very powerful tool to create a positive impact. And Visit Flanders is there to help with that.
Great to hear. Karl, same question to you, but more, I guess, from your scientific perspective. Anyone who's looking to start the circularity journey, either on their business or on their events, where would you suggest that they start, and how could you point them in the right direction?
Yeah, so I think they can easily find information about circularity in Flanders and all the expertise that we have, either through VITO, so my research institute, but also through Circular Flanders, which is a specific government initiative that brings together all stakeholders around circular economy in Flanders. So Circular Flanders really knows where to go. They know the right expert also for the subtopics within the circular economy theme. So they can also easily be found on the internet, and they provide a lot of information also on what has already happened, the expertise that we've built up. And there's a very long list there also of doers in Flanders, people that do the job, people that are working on the implementation. and that can also be visited, and that can be looked at, that can be shown to possible participants. So I think, two addresses to go to, it's either VITO or Circular Flanders.
Okay, some great resources there. Thanks for that. So thank you both for being with us today. I think we've learned quite a bit about how the circular economy connects and how we can use circularity in our events. Brecht, want to give you the honor of selecting someone who you think may be a great guest, a great future guest for the Skift Meetings podcast.
Well, in the line of what we talked about, actually, I'm thinking United Nations Secretary General Guterres. Might be a little difficult, but why not try it? And if that doesn't work, I would recommend somebody of the Events Industry Council, Sustainability and Impact Committee. I think those people are working hard to put out global standards for sustainability, and why not give them the floor?
Sounds good. I'll try my Portuguese connection with António Guterres, see if that works. If that doesn't work, then we'll fall back on the Events Industry Council. Brecht, Karl, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us today on the Skift Meetings podcast. I hope everybody listening enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. And I hope you learned a little bit about circularity, the circular economy, and how destinations can help you with your circularity and sustainability journeys. For everybody listening, thank you for joining us, and all the best.